changed it while I was on the show, so we'll give them a little bit of time. Oh my God, this is probably, normally Morgan had been doing this, but she's been really caught up in doing her stuff. Let's see. Okay, they're starting to come on now. Yeah, let's give it a little bit. Okay. Yeah, we had three people scheduling for a short period, and there was one right after the other, and I moved one half an hour up, and another one I moved, and I don't know what happened. And I still don't know what happened. I sound like I'm crazy. Then I am. So, yeah. Let me just get this set up. Hello, everybody. We're not going to do the intro. Thank you for your patience and for my error. But it's all good. We're all good here. We're all here now. Let me just pull up the comments. It looks like YouTube is coming on slow, but that's okay. All right. So here we go. Yeah. All right. We got about 40 people in here right now. So on all the platforms. So Jan Lemuri, long time no see, third time on the show. I'm sitting there with Suzanne Amara on the previous show, and she's pulling out all those graphical light language, whatever those amazing creations are. And then these dolphins come up, and then you came up in my field. I don't know if that's what reminded me. And then I was like, wait, something's not right. So what's been going on?
Oh, it's been great. I just want to, say sorry to anyone that's been waiting, and welcome everybody aboard.
Yeah.
And I want to, I've done a few shows in last year and a half, and I feel it always works better when we first do a little alignment and then we go into talking. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay, so I'll just invite everyone to put their hand on the heart and just take a few deep breaths. And we just feel how everything now is clicking to the right place, because it seems like we were somewhere above the earth and now we're landing finally. So thank you everybody for waiting. And let's just feel the collective heart of everybody that's present, everybody that listens, even if you're in the future. So just as you take a deep breath, feel how we're starting to co-create the energy here together, how we create the field, how we create this event today. I tell that many times that even though it seems like me or Todd is speaking and you're listening, it's really a co-creation where the way you listen determines of what we're gonna say. Because both Todd or me, we're not really having, written script of what we're gonna say today, what's gonna happen. So we just stay in the moment, we observe the energy, and we feel that flow as it takes us. So know that each one of you is part of this flow as we start creating this event today. So beside the heart, there's one place the dolphins talked about a lot, and the whales especially lately, and it's the pineal. And it's the place of the dreaming, the place of creation of the worlds. So I just want you to bring your attention to your pineal together with your heart. And just observe what happens as we all do that together. So the whales have been inviting me and everybody I worked with to start tuning into the dream that they've been dreaming for a long time, which we would call the dream of the new earth. And I know everything Todd does is connected to that. It's like he was sent to this planet to be a part of this dream, to help bring it forth. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that dream within the pineal of each one of us. And notice how the energy shifts just as we do that. So today, really, what I feel this show is about is this dream of the new earth and how we become conscious of how we're co-creating together. So what happens is part of us have been dreaming that dream anyway. Now we're coming online, becoming conscious of that part of us, of how it's creating and how it's dreaming. And when we become conscious of it, you'll notice that dolphins and whales are there. So we're doing this together. So thank you. So just another deep breath. Feel this alignment now as we start the show now from a place that feels a little bit more of unity. So now I know that I'm going to speak from this energy instead of trying to catch every word. So sad.
That was a good move by you. Very good move.
I've been, yeah. The energy's been a little all over the place.
Since when?
And I was just like, okay, let's just bring it all here.
Yeah.
So it's been a crazy year. Everybody knows that. We last talked last year, and the interesting thing is, I know it's not a coincidence that for me this year was all about the whales. I was starting to write the book about the whales, and even before all this started to hit, I knew it's going to be a strong year. I didn't know in what way. So I was just sitting there knowing, okay, as it started to happen, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm in this most, it seems like in this most chaotic energy on the planet, I'm wanting to bring in what seems to me the highest level of consciousness I've experienced. So it's a very intense duality between, oh, everything's falling apart down here, and this is clearer than any at any point. So what another thing that started to happen with that was that the dream, so the dreaming, the vision, the intuition, everything we've been feeling over the years we've been working with it has become real, while the world outside seems to be very unreal. So for me, that shift, it's almost like it went the opposite. So it switched from, I have this intuition and now I have to see how this is going to play out in reality. Now it's like, no, the intuition that I'm having has become so real, clear, that as I experience it, it becomes a reality. And it's so real that then I'm surprised when everything outside of me is like, just crazy. So it's like, the world outside seems to be unreal, while the world inside has become very real and very solidified. So this is what I've observed, and it's a trip, because we've been so used to define reality as the 3D world around us, and used to having ways of holding on to it and how it's gonna interact with us and how we're gonna interact with it, and we defined what's real by that, and all of a sudden that is all and what's real for me personally, the meditations and everything I've been doing have become so solidified, so real, that I open my eyes and it's like, okay, this was the reality, and this still is the reality. So it's a very interesting experience.
It is. Like the real has become unreal, or what we thought was real. I've been saying it's become cartoonish, and then the unreal has become real. And it's taken on a physical quality, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, I first noticed that when I was trying to find dates for an event with two ladies from Switzerland. They said, oh, we want to come to Hawaii, bring a group to swim with dolphins. We're trying to find an event. We can't exactly find the right month and the right dates. So I'm like, let's just go, close our eyes, go to Hawaii and just be with the whales for a moment. So we were just lying in the water, hearing the whale song. And as we did that, the whales came in such a profound way that after I opened my eyes, I forgot that we were trying to find the date. So I was like, okay, have a nice time. Like I was completing my interaction with them without even remembering that we were trying to find the dates for the event in reality. So for me, that experience was so real that I didn't need anything else. I didn't need, to now find the dates and try to figure out when we're gonna fly and how many people are gonna be in the group and all that. So that was the first time when I started to observe that, and it was really a trip when it happened the first time. That, yeah, that I was complete. Like the way Joe Dispenza says, what happens in between your ears, becomes so real that it's more real to you in that moment than what's out there. And this is a concept until you experience it, and once you experience it, then it's kind of like, for the human part of you, it's like, wow, that was a trip. That was really strange. And then but I feel this is where we're all going. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because what I feel is when people recognize that and actually align in the coherence of the heart and the pineal and start to work with this, they're gonna the world outside's gonna harmonize with that as well. Because right now it's reflecting where the collective is, and the collective is just like, we lost something. And they're not sure what we actually lost, but just it feels like we lost something and we're limited in a certain way. And then the reflection on the outside is just a very confused reflection to that. And once we crystallize within ourselves, then the reflection becomes very clear. And I'm very looking forward to see how that happens.
I think it's going to happen like it happened to you and these ladies. It's like, are you saying like it was so real that they already came to Hawaii and you already did it?
For me, it was. For me, in that moment, I swam with whales and I was complete. I didn't need to then take any physical action to make that happen in the physical. So that was the strange part. I was complete. I was like, thank you. Have a good day.
Wow.
So you can imagine in what way does that then, influence everything we do? Like, how many places we go to and that maybe we're not going to have to go to. Our food, we have a meal, maybe you're just going to experience it and you're going to be complete after the first bite. I don't know. Like, there's so many levels to this that I feel we're going to find out about and explore as we go deeper into this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot to consider. And it makes sense, because one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you is because, like you said, that unreal, what we knew it was real, but we didn't have any proof, right? So it was unreal. Like, you had your experiences in your specialty and others have too, and it's real. And then you meet someone and they know that it's real, but they're not experiencing what you're experiencing. So one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you was because in January, we went down to Florida and we went and spoke at a conference. And so, like, one day after it was over, I think it was the next day after it was over, we went out to this beach, and we had been gifted an RV for the month. So we were in the RV, we pull up, I was on the phone, and Morgan was like about 20 yards in front of me on the other side of the parking lot on this beach, which was only about 15 feet, of beach and then the water. And something told me, I could tell that the animal kingdom was speaking to me, which isn't out of the ordinary, but it just came in, and I'm on the phone with somebody. I'm like, well, the bird, I'm looking around. Oh, I know what it was. I felt that an animal was going to come. Right. And so I looked up because a lot of times it's birds and I didn't see any birds. And I looked around the land and I didn't see a turtle or anything. You know, I just was like, okay, what's it going to be? And then I looked out into the water about 50 yards in front of Morgan and me, and there was two dolphins. And I said, that's it. And I said, I got to go. And I hung up the phone and I was walking up behind Morgan, across the parking lot, and behind her, I'm on the sand. And I said, and I heard him, and I heard him say, we're so happy you're here. And the next thing you know, about 12 feet into the water, and I mean, the water couldn't have been more than about 2.5 feet deep. I mean, it was that close to the shore. These two dolphins came flying in. You know, they came flying in over the water. I don't know how they were doing it because they were bigger than how deep it was.
Mm-hmm.
And they came in at an angle about 12 feet away, and then they crossed right in front of us. And she said, I said, wow. We were like, wow, you know, like, holy, I mean, they were like right there. Like I could have taken like 5 steps and could have touched them. And so then she said, call them back. So I said, okay. So I started to like communicate with them. And then I felt this burning in my hands. And they were like giving me information, healing, whatever, I don't know. And then they did a bunch of stuff out there. And I don't want to get carried away on the story. But my point is that to me was like a representation of that unreal becoming real, because it's taken on this physicality where the intuition is involved, you know, like you were talking about. So it makes sense to me what you're saying. And then this type of episode would be like what would occur in the transition to a full-blown realm or environment or experience like you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had, you know, I've seen this happen with dolphins. Like what you're sharing is a response to something that happens in the energy first. And you are complete with what happened in the energy, and because of that you're not having any expectations. So for example, if somebody went to call the dolphins and they were like, okay, I'm calling the dolphins, you could feel in their energy they're trying to bring them there. And that's not how it works. They have an expectation that the dolphins are somewhere further away,
Yeah.
and they need to come closer. So there's a limitation of time space that you're putting upon the situation, and you're expecting them to come to you in a certain way. So you're only going to believe that they came to you when you saw those physical shapes.
Yeah.
But in reality, what happens is as soon as you have a thought, and as soon as you have a connection from your heart, so this is where you need to connect. That's why I always take people back to the heart. So when you take a deep breath with the heart of the dolphin, in that moment, they're there. They're like, as they're right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like their beaks are actually pointing right at your third eye. You know, it's so, and when you recognize that in the energy, then it already happened.
Yeah.
And when it already happened, then the physical, and this is what I said, the crystallization that reflects, you know, this coherence within you in the physical is gonna happen, because that's how it is. That's the ripple effect.
Yeah.
So, you know, what happens is they do it because you don't need them to.
Yeah. Well, you know,
already, yeah.
The crazy thing is it would have been, okay, so this was January 2020. So I want to say probably around January of 2018, I think would be right. Let me think if I'm right. Yeah. I did. Do you know Laura Hazel? She works with the dolphins in Florida, in the same place that I was, you know, within about 10 miles, 15 miles. Mm-hmm. So I did a show with her, very shy lady, works with the dolphins. She puts out some really great stuff. She goes down to the beach and works with the dolphins, I think every day. And her intel is excellent. So 2 years prior, and I don't know the exact, you know, but I know it was pretty much probably the same month, I was in Florida. I called her up. We were going to go down there, but ended up just doing it like this. So in the show, 2 dolphins came into my third eye, and they were basically swimming around, I guess, my spine. And so they gave me this information. Then they came back in a couple of months later. I was in, and actually a few months later, I was in Hawaii, and those same two dolphins came in. And then we go to this beach, and they're physically these two dolphins. And what I didn't tell you is that when they went back out into the ocean, they were about 50 yards at a 45-degree angle. Now they're about 50 yards out, and there's a whole pod. So I asked a question, and I don't remember what it was. And when I asked the question, two of them jumped in the air. So, there's no linear, and there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. I mean, it's all kind of sequential, but it's not. It's all actually happening at the same time, isn't it?
So imagine now, so what I started exploring in December, I had a group in Hawaii of 11 people. And for me, the question was like, okay, if it happens for one person, what happens when we do this as a group? Can we come to that same level of coherence that I feel when I'm just by myself? Can we do that as a group? And can I have everybody online? And what's going to happen? And what started to happen was that like every day the dolphins were waiting for us in front of the harbor. Really? And we were able to tie the boat. So like we would tie the boat, because many times when they take you to swim with dolphins, they would move alongside with them, put you in the water, dolphins swim past you, and you get to see them. But if you have a magical experience, the pod's gonna circle around you and you're gonna have time to be with them. So here we were able to just tie the boat every time, turn off the engine. Even when we went further out and we met with different kind bottlenose that in Hawaii, they still circled around our boat. So we were able to turn off the engine, tie the boat, and they even, we had a evening manta snorkel, and they said the dolphins never come in the evening. It's just mantas, it's dark, they're out there fishing. As we're getting in the water to go see the mantas, the dolphins are coming towards us. And even I didn't believe it. I was like, no, there's no dolphins in the night. No, like I get in the water, look in the darkness, and I see a dolphin straight past me. And it was just wow. Crazy. The amount of, ease that's involved once you align. And I really need to, honor my group there, because they didn't create small, if you have a group of 10, there's always going to be, oh, us three, you three, they didn't do that. They really stayed as one group. So and that was something that I could only wish for, but I can't, tell people they have to do that, So, and they did it spontaneously, and we've seen amazing things happen.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. If you look at Dr. Stephen Greer, his work with the what's it called? This is a SETI ranch, but I mean, the Close Encounters of the Fifth. Yeah. So, and I've seen pictures because I have a friend, Greg Sullivan, who's in Japan, that has J-SETI, which he's been doing that for 10 years in Japan. And I've had him on the show, and I've seen pictures where they have everybody on the land in a certain spot, and they're basically doing what you're talking about. So they're all there with the same intention, and they have pictures, and you can see the light going through, and different what from a human perspective would be anomalies, but it's light beings, it's communication, whatever. But I guess what I'm getting at is you can do the same thing, which is what you're doing. You go out to connect as a group with, your intuition and intention, and the same thing occurs.
And what the exciting part for me is, and this is what I shared on the last show or the one before that, I'm not sure, but, is the recognizing that we're not here as just humans. We always feel like, oh, we're on this planet by ourselves, humans, and somehow we're trying to connect to this. And instead, the invitation is to start redefining what even means the I am, who you are as a being, and in what way you come to this planet. So what I shared was that a part of your soul comes onto this planet as merging with dolphins and whales, and it becomes, a co-creation of different parts that seem separate, but are all the same system. So and this is where it gets complicated for the human mind trying to understand. So what I always share is the flower of the soul. So if a flower has many petals and the human is just one of the petals, they trying to experience and feel and recognize the other petals. So what I teach is that one of the petals goes into dolphins and whales, and we're here to co-create with that petal. So we're not here just by ourselves trying to figure out what we're doing here. We're co-creating with these different aspects of our being, and one of the petals merges with Gaia, with sacred points on the planet. That's why you can go to Machu Picchu and experience an amazing opening, and it's really opening to your soul. So all these places, and there's many other petals, and one of them is even in the star people. So when you're experiencing a contact, could you be experiencing your consciousness, your soul, the I am of your higher self, that's expressing through a different body? So are you actually, is that you looking back at you? Is that you coming to say hi and saying, hey, we're here?
And considering there was two of them, so that would make sense.
The whale said one sentence to me that there's sometimes you get one sentence, and that one sentence can be like a whole journey. So there was one sentence that they said to me a couple of months ago when I was working with the Pineal and the dreaming level that they're on, was this sentence: we are dreaming you into existence. And it's very, it doesn't make sense to the mind, because we always think like, no, I'm here because I said so, because I'm creating my life and so on. But the whales were like, no, we're dreaming you into existence. What does that mean? In what way would you explain that? In what way would you, and this is, I love.
And are we doing the same thing with them?
Yes. And this is the multi-layered,
and that makes a lot of sense too, because Morgan and I have talked about it. I talked about it on the show. We have had aspects come into the room with us, and so it's the same thing. These are aspects of me, of us. So the only difference is these other aspects have a more physical, more physical presence. They're physically, at least in whatever, but I mean, they're more physical. They're not translucent like we've seen aspects come in the room, and they're translucent star family, translucent aspects of ourselves.
Well, and they can be that as well. That's the thing. And this is what I've been. So I feel we're finally ready, to work this way with whatever. Like, it's amazing when you do both. So for me, it's the most amazing thing to have an experience in the energy like this, and then experience it in the physical, and then see in what way, but it's just, it's an amazing thing that I'm seeing now. We're just coming online. There is a system that we're actually joining into, that we're it was always there. So this the new. So, and by the way, the new earth, I have to be honest, all the 5D speak and everything, I never take anything for real until it becomes my experience. So for me, when people speak about 5D and all that, I was always like, I wasn't sure what to do with it, because it wasn't necessarily my experience. When people talk about two earths and splitting and all that, I was like, well, it's not part of my experience, so I don't know what to do with it, so I'm not going to do anything with it. But what happened with this in last few months, I've been really observing that it actually is two earths and two realities. There's been, it became part of my experience to be able to tap into, what I call, for lack of a better term, the new earth. and and the old Earth that seems to be, they both seem to be a complete bubble onto itself. So it's almost like, when you tune into the dream with the dolphins, when I work with them through the pineal, and the whales, that reality is so complete onto itself that it doesn't need anything from this one. Like, I don't need, this nothing to change here for me to either validate or have a deeper experience in the other one. And it's so interesting to observe that. And it seems like this old reality doesn't want anything from the new one, because it seems like it just wants to play out its game
Yeah.
of, oh, we're just gonna, play the fear and everything until it all collapses onto itself. That's what it seems to be doing.
So
um,
so from your perspective and from your experience, so are you walking in both at the same time? Are you flipping from one to the other?
it's a good question. Is it just the different levels of consciousness,
Yeah.
or am I, in one now and in the other now? Because this is what I've been observing. Yeah, I still, so I have an experience with the whales, and then I go into the world and go to a store, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you see the craziness of everyday life. So am I now switching the other one off and going into this one, or
Yeah.
am I just tuning into another part of me that's, that was always in this one or the other one? And you know I don't feel it matters all that much. What I'm observing and what I'm feeling is, that we're gonna need to be this bridge kind of an experience. So for now it seems like we're bridging, we're experiencing this back and forth kind of a sensation. And they're, for some, for some time I feel they're both gonna be kind of, you know there for us to look at and to experience to a certain extent. But it feels like when I tune into the old one, it's just seems like it used all of its energetic resources. Like it
Yeah.
came to a place of, um, we've been using, and then that bubble starts to kind of collapse inward. And that's what I feel is happening with the old one. So
Yeah.
I don't know in what way that then plays out, but I feel it's all gonna, um, the numbers, that 2012, 2020, I feel the next one, big one coming is 2033. So I feel in this next 13 years, whatever's going to happen with the old one, in whatever way it's going to collapse onto itself, or find new ways of expressing itself, I have no idea. It's going to happen in the next 13 years. I
Mm.
feel, that's the timeline, that, it has to figure out in what way. And it's same with somebody that's been, experiencing an emotion like stress or something that hasn't been good for them, and then they get sick.
Yeah.
So in that process they have a choice of either looking at everything they've been doing and start shifting everything to start finding new resonance, and it's like this new opening that happens through that, or they just keep holding on to everything they've been doing until it finally collapses and they die. So it seems like there's, this is where the planet, the old 3D, is right now.
Mm.
It's been, it's been doing a lot of imbalance for a long time, and now it's either looking at it and starting to transform it, or it holds on and it slowly collapses onto
Yeah.
itself. And
Almost like it's not creating anything new.
yeah, it hasn't.
Yeah. And like your take on it kind of follows Franco D. Nicole's take, who's on next. And there's no coincidences, right? And he talks about 2035, or not really necessarily talking about that year, but just saying it's going to take this long as things stand right now, which is close to what you're talking about. And then the numbers, I'm with you on the numbers, but 2012, 2020, and then to me, 2021 and 2022, all those zeros, ones, and twos seem to be popping up a lot. And I guess maybe that's the 3-year cycle of this this, whatever this has been in 2020, because you're talking about, you're writing a book on whales now. You started working more with the whales in 2020. I mean, something obviously has shifted for everybody since the first of the year. Has it been that way for you?
Yeah, I felt in December already the energy was, I was saying to everybody, oh, the 2020 is coming in. I'm feeling it already. I didn't really want to look, I love looking at numbers, you know, I love looking at numerology, but I didn't really do that because 2020, when you just say it, even when you say it out loud, you know, it's such a duality number. The twos that represent duality. So it just seems 2020 is duality to the max, you know.
Yeah.
So, and this is the everything we've been talking about, the towards the unreal with real, switching polarities and all that, and becoming real and not real, and just this duality playing out. Because right now, when you go out, it seems the duality is bigger than ever, at least to me, you know. Like you have an inward experience, and talking to you, you know, where we come to this amazing energetic alignment, and then you walk out into the world and it just seems like people are
It's weird.
lower, deeper
It's
down.
weird.
Yeah.
It's
So
really weird.
the duality, you know, is crazy. And I felt it's gonna be another year when it's gonna be crazy for us. Like I never expected it's gonna be crazy for everybody. That's what surprised me. You know, I felt it's gonna be strong, you know, and I was like, but it's been always strong for us. We've been so used to, oh yeah, there's all this stuff happening and I need to work on myself and look at my stuff and, you know, shift to the next level. And, you know, it's been working on us for last 20 years. And all of a sudden it shifts outwards. And we're like, really? Oh,
Yeah.
So now we're the ones, you know, now we seem to be the normal ones. And that's the crazy part.
Well, it's funny because when this stuff started happening in February and March, you would go out to the store and you'd see the change taking place. And it was almost like shock, like this can't be really happening, you know. And then after 30, or I'm sorry, like say 90 days, 120 days, you know, leading up to where we are now, it seems even more, I don't know, it's like more unbelievable. Like, you know, you go to a restaurant and they want you to wear a mask from the door to the table. Like, what is that? You know, I mean, like these things are like, so they're cartoonish. But like you said, yeah, it's like if there's two, you know, the one, the 3D, if you want to call it that, it's creating nothing new. It's just creating more distortion. And it's like, and the other thing that's interesting is watching people, not just in these circles, just going, hey, this is like, I can't do this. Like I'm not going to do this at some point. There's a lot of sovereignty frequency being birthed, which I would consider more of a 5D frequency.
Yeah. And what the whale said also, like people are asking me, you know, so what are they saying? Like, you know, how do they comment? And there's no comment. It's like, you know, it just, and then when I was turning deeper into that, it was, they've been dreaming the new Earth this whole time. So they said since the beginning of time, the whales have been dreaming about the enlightened planet. And that's where they've been. They've been this whole time just waiting, really, and dreaming. And you know, dreaming in a sense of Australian Aboriginal term. And I know I'm not Australian Aboriginal, so I can't, you know, say what they mean. But what I feel dreaming is when they talk about it is creating outside of your pineal. So it's really seeing the energetic pattern of how the worlds are created and taking responsibility for how your world is created outside of your pineal. And so the dreaming that happens within the pineal is like a vision. It has this dreamlike quality. It's like a vision, but like I shared, now it's becoming more real. So this dreaming now becomes, you know, reality. And in this dreaming, we meet with dolphins and whales and other beings that have been on that level the whole time. So it's not like they haven't been here or they have been something else and now they shifted. It's us shifting and realizing they've been there.
Yeah.
And from, like I said, the new world is complete unto itself. So it doesn't need to do anything with the old world. And this is what the no comment from dolphins and whales actually is. We're not commenting because we're complete onto this world. And we don't need you to shift anything there. Like, just, you know,
It makes a lot of sense because, like if you take into consideration the elders, the Sasquatch, you know, people that are specializing in the connection with them, as you do with the dolphins and the whales, talk about they are interdimensional beings, right? That have a physicality, and maybe we're getting back to that flower that you're talking about with the petals, you know. And I wonder sometimes, because of the information that's out there, that makes it plausible that there's we think of the cosmos being out there and the star family being out there, but there could be a pretty good argument based on a lot of information that's been pulled up in regard to what goes on in the oceans. Not just with ships going in and out of the ocean, but with, I wonder sometimes, because of the constancy of the dolphins and the whales, not to mention their physical attributes in terms of, like, say, the dolphin's brain and so on, if they're not actually, well, they are multidimensional. And what are the other parts of their flower petals? I mean, it's an interesting proposition, especially when you talk about the whales saying what they're saying, which is basically, hey, we're not coming. We've been here the whole time, you know?
And another part of that came into play for me just recently is the fact that the history is not something that happened and just is. History for each one of us is an active energetic pattern within our field. So your history or the history of the planet Earth is not what happened, it's just what's right now energetically alive within your field or the field of humanity.
Yeah.
So what people mean by when they say that when you heal yourself, you heal your history as well, is you change that energetic pattern within your field. But one thing that came to me just a few days ago was that when different beings say that when something happened, they shifted dimension, they shifted to a higher dimension, we have an ability. So specifically, I'm going to give an example because I feel that's the next event I'm going to do, or the next workshop is about Atlantis. So the history of Atlantis and what happened when that civilization sunk has been so present within our collective memory of this civilization. But what I've just said is just one part of the history that's being active energetically. And what I feel is happening right now, and I'm being guided to work with people on that, is that's not everything that happened. There was parts of Atlantis that shifted to a higher dimensional space. And that is the new history that we're supposed to claim for ourselves. So, and we're supposed to do it us first, because as it becomes active in our energy field, it then, we start, putting it online for the rest of the planet if they choose to do so. But altogether, as a society, as a civilization, we're going to have to rewrite that, meaning we're going to have to tune to the parts of Atlantis that shifted to a higher dimensional space.
Yeah.
So specifically, what happened was there was what's called a Dolphin temple in Atlantis, or more than one. But I've been interacting with this priestess from what she calls the Temple of Anira, and it was built across a bay where half of the temple is on land and half of it is above the ocean. And you would enter this temple and the dolphins would come swim in. So in the middle of the temple, you would actually meet with them in the water. But there was other things that went on within that temple. And when I asked what happened with it, when the Atlantis went down, they said, well, it just shifted to a higher dimension. So I feel, as I'm going to share more about this temple, through that, you start feeling the resonance of that place, and knowing that it's still there, you start rewriting how you see Atlantis. So it wasn't necessarily, because a lot of what I see around in the world, I feel is connected to that fear field, the whole control thing that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Those are all attributes that are brought in at the downfall of Atlantis, but that's just one of them. So when we connect to the other higher dimensional aspect of that, it becomes active within our field, and we say, no, Atlantis is still there. It didn't actually sink within my field, and it's giving me this support to move forward. So
Yeah.
it's not giving me a fear field control like environment of it's happening again. It's giving me, no, I'm actually shifting to a higher dimensional space, and I've done it before, and this happened in Atlantis. So this is my version, new version. So you redefine the history within what's active within your field. And I feel this is what, if humanity did, if we all did, all this right now as a society, just saying, let's redefine what actually happened there. I feel that that would diminish the fear and the control and everything that people are going through right now on the planet. So it's a
yeah. So what you're saying too, and I've never thought about this, but so you're saying that Atlantis itself, history, for lack of a better word, is multifaceted. Like for instance, there's evidence that not just the Mayans, but there's other what we might call primitive civilizations or earlier civilizations that just disappeared. Like the whole village or the whole territory just disappeared, and they can't explain it. So, because there was a physicality involved with that flower or that petal of the flower, we have evidence that they were here one day and gone the next day. And so you're saying that there are parts of the petal of Atlantis that
are still there. They didn't sink.
Yeah.
They're just there as our history. It is our history.
They're just outside of our physical visible light spectrum, because we're at a different frequency.
So now, as we wake up, as we start to remember all these higher dimensional aspects of ourselves, we're gonna be able to look at the planet and the society of who we are and see those as well, not just for the future, but for the past as well. And the new, it's like people talk about shifting timelines, and this is like shifting timelines of the history. So we're bringing in an energy, a different vibration, because it really then just becomes active in your field, and that's all that is there. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't need to be afraid of what's happening, because I know it worked out.
Do you think that there's going to be like where the different frequencies or dimensions or whatever are going to kind of bleed over into each other as we're making, like, say, as one individual is kind of like fading in and out, you see little things like a white mist fly by you, or a dark shadow fly by you, or even like an event such as you guys going out and the dolphins are surrounding you at night, where it's just going to start like bleeding over a little bit. Do you experience anything like that? Do you experience any kind of anomalies, like from the physical or from the human perspective?
Yeah, I mean, there's no, what I'm feeling is just a lot of excitement for what is possible. I feel, we are starting to see what happens. I haven't had an experience of what you're saying where I would see somebody either disappear or not. I remember the show you shared from that where the lady just literally disappears into the light, kind of a thing. I forgot who it was.
Grace.
Yeah. So but I haven't like what I've observed was one level of that is when you merge with Gaia to such a degree that somebody walking on a trail past you doesn't even see you, and you're just
Yes,
sitting
that's what I'm
under a
talking
tree.
about. That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
So, but there's a lot of excitement for that I feel for what else is there for. So what happens? Because
Or,
it's
or
it's not just disappearing.
yeah,
Like this person has a whole new experience.
yeah,
So this is what excites me. Is like, oh, what is this whole new experience? And when I am with the whales and I remember that I'm the same consciousness in the
hmm,
whale that's a petal of my soul as well, looking back at me.
yeah,
Like, where does that then take me? Because I know this is not the end point. So it's not just like, oh, now that we remember this is where we are, and oh, now we remember, then that's it. I feel there's the word co-creation.
yeah,
There's a dance that starts happening between these different parts, and this dance becomes an amazing new experience that we have no words yet, we have no concepts to even describe. In what way does that work when the time and the space disappear and all these different parts all of a sudden connect and they're all part of you? So in what way do you start creating from this space? What
yeah,
happens? Like, what do
yeah,
you do with your life? In what way do you expand? In what do you go do? Do you just sit under a tree? Like there's all these questions,
yeah.
and excitement that I have for what is possible, and where do we go, and in what way do we take that experience and start creating something you've never seen before. So
So in your communications with the well energy in 2020, you said you've been working a lot with the well energy. Are they excited? Is that aspect of us excited after saying that they've been here all along, dreaming this?
like I said, because it's always been,
Okay,
it doesn't feel like that for them it's different. It's
okay,
just like if you, I guess, they're excited from the other energy that I just shared, is the excitement of the co-creative part.
okay,
It's been happening for, well, imagine if you, for example, have 1,000 petals. I know the numbers are just for our mind, but for example, and 999 of them were already co-creating in amazing ways in realities we have no idea about. And the one petal was like not there. And then all of a sudden, this one human petal chooses to wake up, become conscious, and see this whole picture of what's happening, and see there's 99 others there, and they've been all co-creating on levels that I have no idea about. I want to be a part of this, and I want to feel and know. And how does this happen? So does the other 99, what do they do? Are they excited? They're like, yes, come along, sure.
hmm,
But they're not going out of their way to be like, to make it, like, oh,
yeah,
so they're like, I feel what happens is like, oh, okay, here you are. It's like if you had a kid that didn't know how to ride a bike and you were riding a bike with them, and
yeah.
then when they learn, you're like, finally, now we can go on a ride together. So that's how it feels. It's like, great, I was riding my bike the whole time, and this
Yeah,
is the main excitement lies in that reality anyway. So the difference is now that we're doing it with them. But the main excitement is not about here, it's about there, and it always has been. So I know it sounds strange.
no, no, I
To
get what you're saying. And then another thing you said too, which you didn't say it, but it came through, which was like in your practice, in the work that you do, you're changing that. You made the comment a minute ago. You said, I think you said, I'm excited. I'm thinking about what am I going to do next, kind of thing. So that's a little bit different than where we've come out of, which is this is what I do. This is what it looks like. It's straight lines and it's done this way and structured this way. And like what you said, I think captures part of what's occurring, and that is that creativity, that open-mindedness, not flatlining or plateauing or getting stuck in a certain, a certain belief system or level of consciousness, but actually opening up more and more.
And let me, I'm feeling more of how I would answer this as well is, imagine that all these other petals of you, the whales and star beings and so on, they all have levels of compassion that are, to us, they seem like they're infinite.
Yeah.
So excitement would come from a space of saying, in a way it would be a judgment, saying, oh, you took that long and now we're excited, you're finally doing it. But in reality, there was never any judgment. There was never any issue with time. There was, they knew we would take as long as we needed to.
Yeah.
And there was never any judgment of that. So it's, as it shifts to them, it's not like, oh, finally, it's just like, hi, welcome along, oh, here you are, great, and it's that when it comes from the utmost compassion, then it comes from a place of complete acceptance that you weren't online and now you are. And as you are online, there's a complete
that's a good lesson, isn't it?
Embrace of us. Yeah,
I mean, that's a really good lesson. What am I trying to say? But I mean, if you look at, okay, what you just said, these other aspects of ourselves that are looking at us and not in judgment and not overly excited because it's what you said, but we in turn, let's just take the light worker community or just societies in general. So we look at all these other aspects, which are actually petals of us, and we hold them in judgment, right? They're not awake, or they're doing something I wouldn't do, therefore they're not me, or you know what I mean? That's an interesting point that you made that could be applied, because it's got to all work the same. I mean, the flower of life duplicates, replicates. It doesn't like make different things on different petals. You know what I mean by that? I mean, it's really the same structure. It's just, yeah.
So I have goosebumps right now, actually, because it feels like this compassion is the key if you want to be fully online.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've been saying that, people, one of the things that I've fielded was, and we were just talking about it, Suzanne Amar and I were talking about it, and that was, so like the whole disclosure thing, and the different things that are out there that are being disclosed, and people getting angry and people really being polarized, although they're oneness, they're talking unity consciousness and oneness and everything's oneness, but they're looking at these things over there going, oh, that's not me. I would never do that. They're evil. And I'm not saying that from a certain perspective that it's not true, but what I'm trying to say is that, it's like there is no separation. Obviously, there's none. And for me, it's not about what's going to be disclosed. It's about how are we going to respond to that? Are we going to be compassionate towards any aspect of ourselves? Because they all are. I don't care if you say something's a clone or AI or whatever, it's still all made of the same thing, isn't it? So I think you're right. I think the compassion is a great measure, or a place to be conscious of within yourself, to continually look to expand. Yeah.
Hey, I'm feeling, do
Me
we
too.
want to, I
Yes.
would love to
Yes.
bring everybody online.
Yes.
I've been feeling the pineal really lighting, and I really feel we've been talking a lot, and let's just give a little bit of an experience. And the pineal, for those of you that don't know the term, it's right in the middle of the brain. It's a gland that's really responsible for what I call the dreaming, and it comes online, and you'll feel it when it comes online. So right now, for the last 5 minutes when we talked with Todd, I've really been feeling the pineal just starting to buzz. So what you're gonna observe, and we'll try and see what happens when we bring our collective pineal right now.
Yeah.
So this buzz first starts happening within your pineal, but when we do it as a group, you're gonna feel what happens as this buzz becomes a circle, or for like a unified field of pineal. I call it the collective pineal. So and Todd 2 shows ago asked me more about toning and said, "Oh, we need to talk about more about toning." And this is a beautiful way to actually allow for the buzz to happen within your pineal is through the tones. So toning is taking the sound that would usually come out of your mouth and leave your body and go into the space. You, instead of allowing that, you see that sound travel inwards. So when you tone, you can say any vowel or any sound. Just allow it to slowly, gently turn inwards and towards your pineal. And this has been known in yoga. They use Om, because when you sing the Om, the way you shape your mouth, it turns the sound inwards. That M in the end pulls it up and inwards into the pineal. So what I want everybody to do right now, let's start with the heart. Yeah, me and Todd, we got excited about stuff and we talk a lot. So let's just take a few deep breaths, just relaxing into the heart. Just feeling all the words that were said, just gently relax, wash away. Just come into the presence of the moment. And a beautiful way to increase the heart presence, the heart coherence, is just saying thank you to your heart. And then the invitation is to expand this coherence to the circles around you. So the first circle that you can feel into is the circle of everybody listening right now. And just say thank you for the hearts in this circle. And I always invite also to feel the hearts of dolphins and whales. And you might notice something when you take a deep breath with the heart of dolphins and whales. There's this feeling of unity, what I call the one heart, the quantum heart of the whale. And if you listen before, we said that as soon as you do this, they're with you in your space, in your Merkaba, the dolphins, the whales. And now from your heart, just gently shift your attention to the center of your brain, to your pineal. And imagine there's a blowhole that opens on top of your head, right where the crown chakra is. And just take a few deep breaths through this blowhole, through your pineal down into your heart. And I want you to imagine each one of these breaths to gently tickle the pineal. Like this tickle would say, Okay, time to wake up. So what we're going to do now, each one of us, wherever you are, you just give an intention to come up with a sound that goes straight into pineal and activates it. It's going to be your unique sound just for you. And if you have no idea where to start, you can just start with either O or A and turn it inwards. So for example, if I turn A inwards, it sounds like this. If I turn O inwards, it sounds like this. So just take a moment and find a resonance of the sound within your pineal, whatever feels good. Explore for a second. And now as you breathe with your pineal, observe a gentle buzz. It's almost like there's an energetic, vibrational frequency in there that brings everything online. And just keep breathing with this buzz and observe, just observe it. And I want you to start the dreaming that I mentioned before. So out of this pineal, the imagination that's born, it's an ability to see into the higher dimensional places. So in this dreaming, I want you to experience the whales. Because what's happening right now, there's a whale right in front of you. And in the middle of the brain of this whale is the pineal of the whale, buzzing. So observe what happens when you connect your pineal with the pineal of the whale. there's a certain locking for a lot of entanglement that happens, where the two pineals find the resonance, find the harmony, and start buzzing in a new expanded way. And from this space, the invitation is to open up to the new earth, to this vibrational reality that's been here all along. The whale said, "We're dreaming you into existence." They've been dreaming the enlightened planet, with each one of us awakening and remembering fully. They've been holding this potential for us. So just allow your pineal now to find that resonance. Of what you would perceive as the future right now. That's already here, the enlightened future. So let's invite the enlightened you from the future to join us in this circle of pineal. My pineal, the whale, and the enlightened me from the future. So this is what we call coming online. This is what we call experiencing the multidimensional reality. Where you recognize that different petals of your soul are experiencing on different layers of this multidimensional reality. And this experience is a co-creation. And it is exciting. It's exciting for the human to come online, to start exploring, to start creating, to start co-creating, to start shifting. And allowing the ripple effect, the flower of life effect that happens from your pineal. So the next deep breath, just say thank you inside your pineal. The next deep breath, say thank you inside of your heart. And just become aware of your feet on the floor. Now notice that this reality is not going away. The pineal that's awakened stays awakened. So be aware that as you open your eyes, you're actually going to exist. And be aware of your existence in more than one place at the same time. Thank you, everybody, for a beautiful show. Thank you for co-creating with us.
You always do that to me. That was good. That was excellent. Thank you. Thank you. If you would I would suggest, because people are going to ask, I think somebody already asked, put your links or whatever information, and I'd put it on the Facebook on Todd Medina on that one, and also on YouTube at Soulology One Studios.
Just wonderful. Yeah, I'm still at innerdolphinawakening.com. That was the title of the first book.
Okay.
So innerdolphinawakening.com.
Innerdolphinawakening.com.
Yes.
Dolphin Awakening. All right.
And everything is happening in the moment. So I know a lot of people have been asking me about the future retreats and so on. So it seems like everything's going to be happening in the moment from now on. So drop in a message, a text, if you want to be notified about what I'm doing, what's happening next. Just fill up the contact form and I'll notify you when the next things are coming online. It feels like now in July, the shifting of the timelines of Atlantis is happening. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And anything else. There's always, I feel like we're gonna discover a lot of exciting things in next year. So I'm really grateful. And the pineal is the key. So I need to trust when I work with people online that what the energy is telling me is where people are, because I'm so used to seeing people's faces and knowing how deep they went. But online, I just need to trust that people had the experience that this was designed for. So the invitation of this pineal and exploring the new earth is really the co-creation. So this is like the key word. Once you come online, exploring in what way the co-creation and synchronicity with all the petals of the soul happen. So, this is where I like living people with. It's like a little encouragement to go now and explore for yourself and see what happens when you enter these states of consciousness and where it takes you. Because we all have our unique journey that is exciting to us. So we're gonna know for ourselves where we're going, where we're taking this, where is it taking us really, in what way the dreaming happens through us, for us, and it's
right on, man.
It's exciting. Thank you for sharing, Todd. Thank you for who you are.
Let's do it together a little bit later in the year. We'll do it again.
Sure. And thank you to Morgan for her gift. Everybody watching, to go check Morgan's gift. I've done an online webinar with her, and it's amazing. I absolutely love it. So
believe me,
I'm so happy she brought that forward, because it's certainly time for that.
It is. All right, brother. You take care.
Thank you.
All blessings to you and your family. I'll see you again soon later this year.